Does your company offer you paid time off so you can help nonprofit organizations in your community? In this episode of the I Can't See You podcast, I'll talk to you about a conversation Jane and I had regarding that in this final episode of 2020.
From Studio C, welcome to the I Can't See You podcast with David. He can't see, but he's got a lot to say and a face for radio.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 106 of the I Can't See You podcast. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I really appreciate you joining me for today's episode, and I've got a few things to talk about for this last episode of 2020, and I know that some folks are going to be disappointed tomorrow when they wake up in 2021, and everything is pretty much the same. And unfortunately, when the ball drops tonight in New York City or whatever happens where you are at the stroke of midnight, it's not going to be too much different, I don't think. I'm sure there's going to be some new laws and some new other things that go on. But, you know, sadly, it's going to be pretty much like today, just tomorrow. But keep the faith. Things will get better eventually. And I hope you're doing well now. But a couple of updates. First thing is what may be the last fantasy football update of the year. And I say that because I still have the exit interview to do with Verizon Media for the case study that was done for the league. So I'm not going to say it's definitely the last update. It's going to be my last team update for FC Tunguska 08, which is my team name. I won this week. I was in the losers bracket, but I wasn't the best of the worst because I lost the week before. I finished 6 wins, 10 losses, pretty bad. Would have been a little better had Saquon Barkley not gone down. But the most important news is the guy that won is the same old story. The Canadian guy beats the Americans again. 4 out of 5 years, Nick from Montreal has won the championship. It is just unreal. Though I have to say, I beat him in a head-to-head competition earlier this season. So I had that going for me. I guess that's the high point of the season for me. So again, that's probably my last fantasy update of the year. Another thing that I just thought was funny, I keep getting emails, and I know I've touched on the email issues with the, not having the alternative text, so I know what the image is. But I keep getting it, and it just made me laugh over the last couple of days. I got a few. It says, if you can't see this, click here. And I click there, and I still can't see it. I don't think they meant it the way I'm hearing it, but I just thought that was funny. I could click that all day long. I'm still not going to see what it is. Just like usually when folks put up pictures on Facebook, I have no idea who's in it unless the description above says who it is or, they've used alternative text, which most folks don't, and I get it. So I just thought that if you can't see this, just made me chuckle. And it makes me chuckle all the time as I listen to the emails like that. So what I wanted to talk today about in this last episode of the year, Jane has been, the company that she works for, they offer a couple of days of paid time off to go and volunteer. And she said to me the other day, she said, well, I volunteer every day while I'm home. I read, she reads me, for example, the menu on the TV through the cable company, through Verizon. You can turn it on. You can turn it on so it's read to you. But the problem is it's not easy to get to. As I've said in the past, just turning voiceover or descriptive services for that and for TV shows, it's not like, hey, just click this button here and it turns it on and click it here and it turns it off. It doesn't work that way. And the same thing for the menu. And the menu is annoying because it really is drilled down. So when I pull up something, when I go to the DVR, if I'm by myself and I sit there for a couple of minutes, I kind of have an idea, what I'm going to click on. There's not too many things that I watch on the DVR. I love House Hunters International, and I watch all of those. It usually doesn't matter where they're at, although I love the ones, as I've mentioned before, anything along the Mediterranean coast, Spain, France, Italy, and anything along there. I guess Greece to that extent as well. that just seems like a good place that I'd like to live. But any place in Europe is fine. Any place, just about anywhere is fine, because they usually don't go to, dilapidated places. Although I do have to tell you, I watched one last week, and Liz happened to catch some of it, and it was in Thailand, in one of those islands, in the Indian Ocean, right off Thailand, and Liz said, where are they? It looks like a shanty town. The guy's talking to the real estate agent is telling the guy, yeah, there's coffee shops and restaurants. And Liz said, those are coffee shops and restaurants? I said, Liz, it's not Starbucks. And I said, tell me about it. She said, well, it looks like a shanty town. And can I tell that? I can't tell it, but they're all interesting to me because you learn about the other cultures and other things that go on. And it helps when the real estate agent is funny and very outgoing. And this lady that they had from Thailand, she's been on a couple of episodes, and she's been very funny, and I've enjoyed watching when not that I would move to Thailand. I don't, and I think I now know that most less than first world countries Liz is not going to move to. So that's what I watch. I watch a couple other shows that I record, SWAT, SEAL Team, MacGyver. And most of those I can tell, not necessarily because I'm reading what it says, but for example, SEAL Team is written out in all caps. SEAL is in all caps. And I can tell that. I can't necessarily see that it says SEAL Team, but I can see that there's 4 caps in a row. So I'm like, okay, that's SEAL Team. And SWAT is abbreviated as S period, W period, again, all caps, shorter than SEAL Team. So, that's what I look for when I go through. I don't necessarily read it. Now, the problem comes if there's more than one episode, I don't always know that I'm on the bottom episode. And so I try to keep up to date. House Hunters International, I don't, because, there's one every night and I don't watch it every day. Although I try to. That's usually what I watch, when I'm eating lunch. So there's no, and reading the menu, reading what the show is about is almost impossible for me. So if we're sitting watching TV or waiting and I'm looking through the DVR, I'll have Jane or Liz read that to me. And it's just not easy turning the descriptive services on for that, where it would be easy to shut off. So it gets annoying. It's very annoying to people who can see and don't need that. And I don't want to do that. If it's a TV that only I watch, I would do it. I would leave it on. But, I know others watch, and I'm not going to do it. So back to my main point of the story. So that's one of the things that Jane helps me with. And all throughout, my life, just like Liz has learned to, what she has to tell me or say to get me to, if we're in a store or, walking down, we were in a store the other day in a supermarket. And as I mentioned before, I usually don't go in, but in this one, I went in because it was, wasn't a busy time. And so I went in, and we were coming from someplace. Instead of sitting in the car, I figured, I'll go in and, take a look around. I don't touch anything. I just, use my cane, and I usually walk behind Liz. It just makes it easier. And, when you get those carts that make all the noise, now I always hope for those. Liz hates them, but, when I'm with her, it makes it easy for me to follow along. And she doesn't have to, constantly say, are you okay? As long as I hear that cart, I'm good. I don't have to worry, unless she has to, say, okay, we're going to stop up here to look at whatever. So just like Liz has learned to do that over the years, to instruct me or read stuff or tell me what color something is. And again, there's an iPhone app that kind of does that. It's not always accurate with the color of something. But Jane has, and Jacob have learned to do that. And the more time that I spend with them, the more they pick up on my mannerisms. For example, if we're watching TV, and there's a graphic on the screen, and I can see, like, maybe I see something pop up. Now, sometimes it's just somebody's name, and it's okay. I don't, we don't go through the credits. But, if there's like either subtitles or it says, the name of a place, I will point my finger at it and do like an up and down motion, like I'm writing something. And, if so because sometimes they forget, but that's that's one of the things that I do. And again, when we're out and about, not under a pandemic situation, but when we're out and about, Jane knows how we can most quickly walk somewhere if it's just the two of us. I'll either grab her arm or she'll grab my arm. I prefer for her to grab my arm because, my hands always hurt and I don't want to hold on to somebody if I don't have to. So, and same thing with Liz now. Liz and I used to hold hands, but, pandemic time, we don't, when we're out and about, she doesn't, she's the one touching the stuff on the shelf. So that's why I walk behind her now for the most part. Sometimes I walk next to her if we're talking about something and there's nobody else close by. But, Jane has learned, and Jacob, like I said, also, how to do that. And, so she said to somebody that she works with, she said, I do that every day. Whether it's, telling me what I'm taking out of the fridge if I can't tell, or, where something is in the fridge, if it's, something new and not on the berry shelf, which is really the only reason I go into the fridge is for blackberries, blueberries, and raspberries at the end of the day. And when I say at the end of the day, I'm not saying, that's when I go in at the end of the day, because that's when I eat them at the end of the day. And I do apologize about my voice. My voice is still a little funny and not quite sure. But I don't feel any other symptoms, so I don't think it's COVID. I think it's just a cold. And so we'll see how that goes. But Jane was saying to one of her coworkers, look, I do that all the time, and what more could I do? And she's like, yeah, that's true. And I just think that's funny. And she knows the way to help someone who can't see, like Liz. I think back to when we were in Las Vegas summer of 2019, and we were at the NFB convention, National Federation of the Blind, and Liz was helping folks. Of course, they want you to, from one point where the rooms are in the hotel at the place that we stayed at, which I think was Mandalay Bay, if I remember correctly, to get to just about everything else, you have to walk through the casino. And walking through a casino isn't like walking through a supermarket or a city that has like a grid. Everything's on angles, so you kind of have to weave your way through just to get out because they want you to stay and gamble. So Liz helped countless folks through that to get to the other side, to get to where all the convention stuff was going on. And, so Liz knows. Now, does that mean Liz doesn't sometimes point when she's telling someone where to go? Or, yes, she still does that. And she still does that. And I realize that I do that all the time, not when I'm talking to blind friends, but when I'm talking to anybody else. I know where something may be, and I will point. It's over that way, and or if I'm asking Liz or Jane or Jake, did you go up the street? And I'll point to where this market is that we get some stuff from sometimes, and where Jacob used to work. So I'm probably just as guilty. Now, a blind person is not going to give directions by saying it's right over there and pointing. They will be more specific. So, and Jane has told, her coworkers that, and, everything else that she does and helps. And, it's just kind of funny that, and I think it's kind of good that, that look, the work is giving them the opportunity to do that. And, I think back to as Liz and I were talking earlier today, and I'm recording this on New Year's Eve, by the way. I was waiting to record. Jacob was supposed to work today, and there was a scheduling issue, so he's not working. I was hoping to record when, the house is quiet and no one is around. Liz usually lays down for a little bit when she's off. And so the only one would have been the wild card would have been Jane. And when she gets watching TikToks on the couch, she stays there for a little bit. So when Liz and I were talking earlier today, she's like, do you believe it's New Year's Eve? And then I started thinking, Jane's birthday is on the 2nd of January. And I said, oh my God, it was 2 years ago or a year ago that in a couple of days that I went up for her birthday because she didn't have plans with her friends because she works late during the week. Her birthday was during the week last year. I don't remember what day it was. Let's see, it's Saturday, so it must have been Thursday last year. So I went up on my own, and it was a great day for me. Now, Jane didn't feel well that day, so it wasn't a great day for her, but I'm thinking she was glad I was up there and, we could hang out a little bit. But she didn't feel well. We went to Junior's for dinner and got some cheesecake, and it was a great day. And I talked about it in a podcast episode. I went to B&H Photo on my own. I did a lot of things on my own because she was working, and I didn't want to wait, and I took the train up and got out of the train station, and it was very close, obviously, to B&H. So I went in there and spent an hour or so in there, looked around, then went over to Winter Fest, I think it was called, behind the public library at Bryant Park, another one of my favorite spots to go to in the city, just behind the New York Public Library on 5th is Bryant Park. In the summer, it's nice, when people are hanging out and they've got kiosks. In the winter, it's nice because they have, all these kiosks and the ice skating there. And so it was just a great day for me. It gave me a lot of confidence. It wasn't the first time I had gone by myself and spent the afternoon on my own in New York because I had gone about a year earlier and went to an event at the New York Public Library for blind and visually impaired folks. And it's just a confidence boost. And so when Jane was telling her coworkers that, I do stuff like that but obviously, there's a couple of different thoughts behind, helping blind folks out. As I've mentioned before, it's great if you want to help, and we really appreciate it, but only if we ask. Don't assume that we have to. Like Simon and I were talking last week, if somebody sees me walking down the street in Philadelphia, I've made it most of the way to where I'm going. And if I could do that, then maybe I can make it the rest of the way. Now, I may need some help. There's no doubt. And if I need help, I'll ask. If I hear somebody near me that's talking either on a phone, I'll go over and ask, say, excuse me, and ask. So, and Jane gets all that. So, Jane tries to tell, her friends and her coworkers and whatever about that. But again, I think that, and maybe some of her coworkers would want to help me out too. I don't know what they could do via Zoom or whatever, but, I have an International Living magazine. I need, I'd like to have some articles read because I'm not sure all of them are electronic. It's nice that the company does that. And I said, well, maybe you should do something for somebody else. And she's like, no, I do enough for you. That's good. And I said, okay. But I just think that's nice, companies that offer that, and not necessarily to somebody that's disabled. I mean, maybe you could volunteer handing out food, or again, I don't know, it's a different time now. You don't want to necessarily go someplace to help because, Jane rarely leaves here. So, certainly she's not going to do anything until, she's got the vaccine in her. And she went out on Christmas Day. We went over to Liz's mother's house to wish her Merry Christmas. And Jane went with us, and then we went to visit Liz's father's grave, and as we like to say, bring an offering. I guess we shouldn't put it that way, but I mean, we always, as I've mentioned before, on special occasions, Christmas for Vincent, Liz's dad, we take over Christmas breakfast. One little bite of a little piece of sausage and a piece of potato, that stuff that they had when they were, growing up, when Liz was growing up. And then, we continued with that tradition with Christmas breakfast now. And then we, as I mentioned before, do Chinese Christmas dinner, which is the Jewish way, I guess. So we do that, and then for my folks, we do other things. As I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, when it was the anniversary of my mom's death, we took we took some coffee over, some pods, and just sprinkled it out. The rain will make the coffee. So Jane went with us to do that. But otherwise, Jane doesn't really leave because during the week when she's working, she starts at 9 a.m. and usually doesn't get done until about 7. And at that point, there's no place to go. We eat dinner and watch TV. So it's nice that she gets out. But once things get back to normal, once she's back in New York, I'm hoping she'll do something. And, maybe she'll help. There's a couple of blind organizations in New York that could probably use her help. She certainly had enough training that she could help some folks out. So let's see what happens when she gets back into the city. Hopefully in the summer, her company has told her. But, again, all depends on the vaccine and how things go there. But if you want to help out and your company offers that and you want to help a blind organization, I know the NFB of Pennsylvania could use your help. You can check with your other blind organizations in your area if you want. If you want some tips or some coaching on, hey, how can I help blind folks out in general, please reach out and give me a buzz. Let me know. It's 646-926-6350. That's area code 646-926-6350. Or shoot me an email, ican'tseeyou@gmail.com. I can't see you sounds like a whole sentence, but it's only 7 letters. ICANTCU podcast@gmail.com. And I will help you out. I'll get the conversation going and we can move from there. And again, I'm sure any organization, blind or otherwise, if your company offers the time off to do that, would be really appreciative of it. And sometimes it might be things at home. I know Liz is going to be stuffing envelopes for the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania while she watches TV once we get all the materials. You can also use that contact information to reach out if you have other questions or comments or show ideas. I am going to have some more guests on this year, as I've mentioned in the past, and I look forward to doing that. I know they're better received, as I mentioned earlier, and I just think it's just a better quality show. But please reach out. And before I go, I do want to remind you, ican'tseeyou.com/coffee will take you to White Cane Coffee Company if you want to make a purchase over there. It will help the Keystone chapter of the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. That is our affiliate link. That's not actually our affiliate link, but that is what's called a pretty link to make it easy so I don't have to say whitecanecoffee.com/REL equals and then something else. So again, that's ican'tseeyou.com/coffee. Any purchase you make, the Keystone chapter earns a 10% commission. And that is greatly appreciated both by the Keystone chapter, of which I am the treasurer, and by, I'm sure, White Cane Coffee Company. And I really do appreciate you listening throughout this year. And I hope you have a very happy, healthy, and prosperous 2021 to you and your family. And just keep the faith. Things will get better. And I appreciate you listening. Talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast. Follow David on Twitter. He is at David Bench.